Hi everyone, my name is Robin Weeks and I'm the mentor for the course Origins and Destiny of Human Consciousness. I'm standing in teaching the course. This is a course by Bunny Clems, but she's taking a break this fall. So I'm standing in for her and I'm excited to teach it because it's always been a subject that's interested me. So I'm glad to have the opportunity to sort of step in and hopefully bring some interesting new wrinkles and angles to the course as we go. I have a background that is a little bit odd and different from perhaps other AU mentors, in that I have a long background and career in the sciences. I was an earth scientist, geophysicist, had a career in that, and but then left that and I did a master's degree in religious studies at Naropa University, which is in Boulder, Colorado. So I teach the course on science and spirituality at Atlantic University, and I also teach the course on religion, spirituality, and the transpersonal as well. So I have this science and spirituality background. I'm always going to try and bring in some aspects of what modern science thinks, simply because in our culture we regard science as authoritative, and therefore it behooves us to know what the perspective of science is, or at least mainstream science, because quite clearly we're going to always end up going beyond that perspective. But I think we do need to know what it is, what that perspective is. So I'm always concerned to at least bring that in, so that we then know where we're, in contrast to that, this is where we're going in our own thinking. And with respect to the subject at hand, the origins and destiny of human consciousness, I tell my friends that I'm teaching a course on the origins and destiny of human consciousness, and they uniformly have the reaction that, okay, small subject, so that sounds straightforward, and it's obviously a big subject, and no course could ever be exhaustive in examining that particular subject. Bunny has designed a course that looks at a range of different approaches, and she's tried to give you a sense of the range of approaches to looking at human consciousness and its evolution. What isn't included really is the scientific approach, and I'm going to try and give you some a flavor of what the scientific approach to human consciousness and its evolution is. By sending you just short videos, I'm not going to overload you with that kind of material, but I do want you to know what the kind of scientific view looks like and what its limitations are with respect to it. One question I feel underlies the whole course, really, and sort of by implication, the question, what is consciousness, is going to underlie the whole course. And I think that it is not a question that we actually really want to try and answer in a definitive way, but we do want to explore it. So it's important to ask the question and then explore it with all of the tools at our hand, our intellects, our own experience, spiritual experience, life experience, and so that question is a stimulant to going deeply into the whole subject. I don't think it's actually a question that there are many answers to it. And I want to mention, you're going to get a heavy dose of Ken Wilber in the first few weeks of the course. And I'm going to make videos to try and help you through that. Many of you may have encountered and studied Ken Wilber before, and then that'll make it a lot easier. But if you haven't, it's dense material, and it's one can get a kind of indigestion trying to get through Ken Wilber in a short space of time, and I'm going to help with that as much as I possibly can. But he, in a sort of his developmental psychology, produced a stage that is beyond the formal operational stage, beyond the rational stage, that he called vision logic. And one of the characteristics of vision logic was that it is aperspectival. In other words, a person exhibiting that stage of development has the ability to hold contrasting and even apparently opposed ideas, to hold them as true. So that you're not saying there's a right way or a wrong way. You're able to hold multiple different perspectives and arguments, and then preference them depending on the context that makes a particular perspective more valid in this context, perhaps. So vision logic has this person who is exhibiting that has this ability to hold even contradictory ideas in a kind of space where they're not saying that this one has to be true and this one not true. One can hold them all as true. Or the other side of that coin is that they're all sort of wrong in some way. One can always find circumstances in which they're wrong. But so with respect to consciousness, I think we do need to be able to hold multiple and apparently conflicting ideas about it. Our consciousness has to be big enough to hold all of those. And so that we're not sort of going down the path of there's right answers and there's wrong answers to many of these questions. So vision logic, I hope we can all apply vision logic as we're going through this and hold these answers, but we can also talk about the relative merits and consequences and advantages of each of the different ideas we encounter. So it's going to go like that. With respect to, I think it's a very difficult and challenging question, and that's why I'm happy we're going to be sitting with it for 12 weeks. So question, what is consciousness? And I want to ask you that question at the end of the course to see where we're at in that respect. But I'm going to also send you videos that give very contrasting ideas about what consciousness is. Clearly, if consciousness is something that evolves, which this course, the title of this course implies that it does, whatever that it is, then it has qualities that change with time, and so consciousness then when one approaches it that way, one is looking at aspects of consciousness that do things, right? So a consciousness has thoughts, has beliefs. It interacts with, I've got some things written down, it produces works of art and creativity. It explores the world and tries to figure out how it works in science. It forms social structures. So consciousness has these consequences, if you like. And in a way, the thing that evolves are what these consequences look like. What does the art look like through time? How do we approach the world or relate to the world? How does that evolve with time? And you could sort of think of these as sort of being indirect evidence of a shift in something we're calling consciousness. So I think ultimately we have to say that consciousness interacts with materiality and produces effects that we all observe and that we have the sort of records of history as a long kind of record of the interaction of consciousness via humans with materiality. So that's an important component of what the evolution of consciousness will look like. Is it this involvement of consciousness in materiality? Could one describe it as a relationship? I'm not sure. Is it there's a relationship between consciousness and materiality, and that relationship is the thing that evolves with time. That's one possible way to look at it, I suppose. I want to say that mainstream science kind of puts if we were to be purely using mainstream science for this course, in a way, it would be quite a short story, because we would be looking at biological evolution, and then at consciousness as something that is a consequence of biological evolution, and there really wouldn't be a whole hell of a lot to say about the evolution of consciousness. But and therefore, to actually really look at consciousness, which science really doesn't, and perhaps is not really capable of looking at consciousness. But one is required to leave mainstream science in order to go on this journey that we're going to go on, and then the story gets much more interesting. And we, of course, all know consciousness from within our own experience of it. In fact, that's really the definition of consciousness, right? That we have it. And describing that is difficult, but we sort of know we have it, and so how does our own experience evolve with time? How have we? And I think I put this question in the first discussion post. It's like very clear to me when I look back at my own life that something about me has evolved. How I see the world, how I interact the world, how I am in the world, has changed over time. It's changed in particular ways, and are those ways significant? Do they in fact, as one's individual experience, point the way towards a larger kind of arrow of the evolution of consciousness? And that's an interesting question that I think we should bear in mind as we go. So I'm going to be making these videos as frequently as I possibly can. I'm going to make another video during the first week to give you a kind of background, simplified background of Ken Wilber, one that may help you go through his material and digest it and make it more enjoyable. So I'm going to be doing that, and then I'll be making videos every week as we go, so that we're in interaction. I'm excited you're in the course. Welcome to it. And this is definitely a voyage of exploration, and we're going to have some interesting stimulus as we go on this voyage of exploration. There's going to be plenty of questions that arise. Please ask them. This is going to be about asking questions, and then looking at ways in which one could go about addressing those questions or exploring those questions. Definitive answers we may not come to, and nor do I think we should, because I think that perhaps we could say up front that one aspect of consciousness is that it's going to leave us with a certain kind of mystery, and a beautiful kind of mystery. And we're basically playing in this kind of we're playing in that mystery. We're going to dive into it and then play in that mystery. But it's not going to make it not a mystery, but we're going to know the mystery in a very different kind of way because of what we do. Welcome to the course, and I'll be talking to you in another video very soon, and excited to work with you. Okay.